Before digital pixels ruled the screen, this 80s flick took us to the shores of ancient Greece, where gods played chess with the lives of mortals and monsters lurked in every shadow. The story of Perseus and his quest for Andromeda had everything: a flying horse, a terrifying gorgon with a gaze of stone, and a mechanical owl that captured the hearts of kids everywhere. But beneath the fantasy was a star studded production featuring Hollywood royalty like Laurence Olivier and Maggie Smith. It was a film that defined the sword and sandal genre for a generation, proving that a little bit of clay and a lot of imagination could create a spectacle that felt larger than life. So collect your invisibility helmet, take up your shield, and get ready to ride Pegasus as Chris McMichen and I discuss Clash of the Titans from 1981 in this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Tim Williams. Joining me today to help us navigate this hero's journey is a man who knows his way around a cult classic and always brings a fantastic perspective to our deep dives. He's a great friend of the show. Please welcome back to the mic, Chris McMichen. How you doing, Chris?
Doing great. Ready to talk about Clash of the Titans.
Yes. So yeah, I just want to jump right into it because this is a very, very early memory for me, 1981. So we'll just jump right in. When did you see Clash of the Titans for the very first time?
Clash of the Titans for me is a unique movie that I have actually never seen in a theater before.
Okay.
This was on like whatever the early version of, cable movies channels were.
Right.
If HBO was around back then, I don't even know.
It was.
That may be where I first saw it, but it certainly was on television, movie network type, experience for me first. And I love Greek mythology. I just do. I always have enjoyed it. It's a big, it's a big, fun fictional area for me to kind of, research and I like the stories, the ideas, the protagonists and antagonists involved in those stories and the lessons that come out of them, all those kinds of things just really appealed to me when I was a kid. So I like this movie long ago, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. So this is actually a movie that I did see in the theater. I have a very vivid memory, probably one of the first, like not one of the first movies, but one of the first movies that I remember seeing in the theater. The first movie I remember seeing in the theater was the Muppet movie, which came out in 79. This being 81, I don't remember when Fox and the Hound, that's another one I remember very early. But I remember sitting next to my mom when this movie, and this is what I remember, the breastfeeding scene, because when that happened, I remember looking at my mom going, I'm not supposed to see this. I'm not. And my mom was like, it's okay. She's just breastfeeding. It's natural. It's okay. But cause I was like, not allowed to see that, that's PG.
Yeah.
PG shouldn't have that in it. That's what I thought as a 5 or 6 year old kid seeing it for the first time. But, getting past that, I remember seeing in the theater. I remember loving it and just being completely enthralled by it. Just a great, like I said, a hero's journey, the effects that are totally outdated now, but were just great at that time, or at least for me as a kid. But yeah, like you, we had HBO, probably not, I think a couple of years later when HBO kind of hit, but being a PG movie, we've talked about this on the podcast a lot. PG movies, they ran during the day. They didn't show anything rated R until after 9:00 at night. So anything that was PG would run, if not every day, maybe twice a day, as they were getting more movies to play. So I've seen this movie so many times, but I had not watched it in a long time. So next question, when did you see it last before rewatching it for the podcast?
It's been a very long time ago. I saw it a bunch of times around the time that it came out and the years, like let's say in the 6 or 7 years after it came out. Okay.
Right.
Because they played this movie. You're right. They played it a lot. Okay. They played it a lot. and, with only a couple things and, there's no language in it, anything like that.
Yeah.
So you could play it
Yeah.
anywhere pretty much. You blur out a couple of
Mhm.
little small things like the breastfeeding scene you mentioned, and
Right.
you could play it on network TV every day if you like. But so I saw it a bunch, but I'm sure it's been, probably 30 years since I've seen it. Since before I saw it this week again and refreshed it in my mind. But even then, I remembered it well. I just seen it so many times before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of the same. Like I can't remember when the last time I watched it. I might have seen it within the last 20 years. Like, if I happened to be on I know like they did the remake was like 2011, I think, is when the remake came out. So it might have been, they might have played it on TV. Like, some of the TBS or TNT might have played the old one just to like get it back in people's minds. Because I was gonna say, I think this was probably one that was on TBS a bunch too, like through the '80s as well. Like after it finished on HBO and being on like regular TV. Well, for us in Atlanta, it was regular TV. Everybody else was still like basic cable. But yeah, so I'm sure I'd seen it on TV a bunch too. But I had not seen it. So I would say like maybe in 2011 I might have rewatched it. But like you said, when I watched it again yesterday, I remembered a lot. Like I remember things as they were coming up, like, oh, I totally remember this, or oh, I remember this. So it wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't like a first time watch for me for sure, but it was it was a fun rewatch. And it's one of those movies where, like, once again, with the special effects as dated as they are, it's like, ooh, this was much cooler in my memory than it is now, but still fun to watch. So,
Yes.
well, we've talked about the gods and monsters. Now it's time to see if your knowledge of this production is written in the stars. We're heading into our trivia segment, Risky Quizness. I've gathered 5 facts and a few clever myths from the 1981 production files. I'll give you the statement. You tell me if it's true or false. So, Chris, are you ready to face the quiz, or is the Medusa stare already starting to set in?
I'll try not to turn into stone while we get through this.
All right, 5 questions. Here we go. Number 1, true or false? The character of Bubo the mechanical owl was added to the script specifically to capitalize on the popularity of R2D2 from Star Wars. True or false?
I would say yes, because when I rewatched it even yesterday, the little sounds that he makes and things I thought were
Uh-huh.
very imitative, and even some of his mannerisms of being a little bit clumsy here and there. So I would say that's a definite true.
Yep, that was true. Director Desmond Davis and the producers felt that a cute mechanical sidekick would appeal to the same audience that fell in love with R2D2. However, visual effects veteran Ray Harryhausen famously wasn't a huge fan of the idea. He had a lot of stuff to do in this production, so doing a mechanical owl was probably not what he wanted to spend time on. All right, next, number 2, true or false? Clash of the Titans was the very last feature film to showcase the stop motion visual effects of legendary Ray Harryhausen, who we just mentioned.
Wow,
So
the
true or
last
false? Was this
one.
his last feature film?
I actually have no idea. I'm going to guess, considering his popularity at the time, I guess I'll say no. That he probably tried something after that, but let's see.
Nope, that one is true. He did, after the film, he retired from feature filmmaking, making Medusa and the Kraken his final big screen creations.
Well, there you go. Gonna
All
go
right.
out, go big.
So you're 1-1. So number 3. True or false? To make Medusa look more terrifying, her eyes were actually powered by tiny internal light bulbs and batteries hidden inside the model.
Hmm.
True or false?
I don't know. I guess based on the effects that I saw, let's guess false. I think that was probably added in later on.
That is correct. It is false. The glowing effect of Medusa's eyes was achieved through clever lighting on the set and post-production optical effects, not internal electronics. Yeah, I think it was very clear to me that those were like added afterwards in the version that I was watching.
The color
All right,
alone.
he's coming out of the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. so he's 2-1. So 2 right, 1 wrong. Here we go. Number 4. True or false? Dame Maggie Smith and Sir Laurence Olivier refused to film their scenes together on the same set because of a long-standing personal feud. True or false?
That sounds like good drama for this podcast, but I don't know. I didn't know anything about these characters other than who they were at the time. I was very
Mhm.
young. Let's just guess that it sounds plausible, so I'm gonna say true.
This one is false. While they were both titans of acting, they were consummate professionals. However, many of the Gods of Olympus scenes were filmed separately from the location shoots in Italy and Spain, but only for logistical reasons.
Gotcha.
All right, time to break the tie. You're 2-2. So will he come out victorious? True or false? In actual Greek mythology, you probably know this one. The monster Perseus fights to save Andromeda is indeed called the Kraken. True or false?
See, I don't know that. I don't think
Okay.
I don't think it's called that. I know that Release the Kraken is something that people talk about a lot, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna guess false on that one.
All right, he pulled himself out of the hole. It is false. The Kraken is actually a creature of Norse mythology. In the original Greek myths, the sea monster is called Cetus. Is that right? Cetus? The
Sure.
filmmakers used Kraken because it sounded more formidable for a 1980s audience. And of course, it's kind of become synonymous now with any kind of like underwater monster. So release the Kraken. So, all right, good job. So he passed the test, broke out of, he's over 50, over 50-50. So that's good. So how did you do as a viewer, as a listener? How did you do on the quiz? Let us know, sending us a comment, posting a comment here on YouTube, or sending us a message on social media. I want to hear from you. See how you're doing. All right, well, let's jump into the cast. It's a pretty extensive cast, but I've tried to only cover those that I think either we would know, like our main characters, or had any kind of like history or good filmography. But of course, Perseus was played by Harry Hamlin, who I did not know at the time. He's widely known for this role. He reprised it in the 2007 Santa Monica studio video game God of War 2, and he's also well known as Michael Cusack in the legal drama series LA Law, for which he received 3 Golden Globe nominations. That's what I remembered him from, of course, much later, which is why I'm pretty sure I saw it on like TBS after LA Law had been on, because then I was like, oh, that's the same guy. I wouldn't have known that. Not that I was a big LA, I don't think I ever watched an episode of LA Law. I just knew it was popular. He also had a recurring role as Jim Cutler on the ABC drama Mad Men, where he received another Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Actor in a drama series. But before he was considered for the role, other runner-ups were Malcolm McDowell, Michael York, Richard Chamberlain. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was fairly unknown at the time, was briefly considered, but producer Charles H. Schneer felt that with the exception of Hercules, Greek heroes were athletic, but not overly muscular, relying more on cunning than strength. He also felt that casting a very muscular actor was a cliche, harkening back to the Italian sword and sandal movies of the 1960s. I would not have wanted to see Schwarzenegger in this role at all.
No. Didn't he go on to play Hercules in something? I thought he
He
did.
did. He was in
So
Hercules in New York, I think,
yeah, that's
kind
right.
of around the same time. I think it was like 79. It might have been before the 80s. So,
They found him at
uh,
his right place then.
yeah, exactly. And then, of course, he with his accent, I think they dubbed his voice in Hercules in New York, pretty sure. According to Harry Hamlin, prior to choosing to do this movie, he was considering doing another project with Richard Burton, a movie adaptation of the story of Tristan and I
It's
can
old.
always say that wrong. Isolde, thank you. Tristan and Isolde, that became Love Spell, released in 1981. He ultimately moved towards what became this movie despite not knowing anything about it, only for the opportunity to work with Laurence Olivier, the one actor he considered even greater in stature than Burton. So he got to work with Laurence Olivier. So yeah,
Even though
Harry
they had
Hamlin. Yeah,
I was gonna say,
zero
even though
scenes
they had
together.
0 scenes together, that's right. I mean, you say work together, I guess you could be on the same film set at the same time. You talk to the guy,
Yeah.
but as far as work together, they didn't get to do much of that.
Yeah. Not much at all. But so how do you feel about Harry Hamlin as Perseus? I thought he was a good casting choice.
Without a doubt. I mean, obviously with his track record of all the awards he's won, the guy can act, there's no
Hmm.
doubt about it, and,
For sure.
you know,
Yeah,
after seeing this movie so many times, I can't imagine anybody else playing the role. He just does
exactly.
such a good job. The idea of and it struck me again just kinda watching it yesterday, but he's almost got like a childlike quality because he's been on that
Yeah, he does.
isolated island for so long, and
Hmm.
he really doesn't
Yeah.
understand, and the idea of bringing him to Joppa when they do, just transporting him by pulling him out and setting him down in the amphitheater. He's learning everything for the first time. It really is a good portrayal, I think. So.
Yeah, I agree. So I liked him. Thought it was a good choice.
Yeah.
So for the role of Andromeda, they cast Judy Bowker. She's only known for this movie, Brother, Sun, Sister Moon in 1972, and Count Dracula in 1977. That's really all I have on her. There wasn't much other than that. So
I think she did some theater acting. Like she's British, I think, pretty sure. So but there were a lot where she finally wound up doing most of her work is on the real stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was a lot of theater, a lot of British theater actors in it because so I didn't put in the notes, but like the reason they chose the director for this was because he had done some BBC Shakespeare productions. Like he had filmed some Shakespeare productions, which it does feel very like Shakespeare, or like some of the deliveries feel very like staged, Shakespearean type performances.
The timing is very Shakespearean. So, the monologue, dialogue stuff's all that way. So I can see that.
Yeah. So then as Ammon, we had Burgess Meredith, one of my favorites. Of course, we've talked about him previously on our Rocky 3 episode, but he was known he had a long career, most notably for playing the Penguin in the 1960s series Batman, which is what I knew him from, and of course, Mickey in the Rocky film series. John Gielgud was the actual preferred choice, but MGM insisted on Burgess Meredith to have at least one American actor in there and prevent the public from thinking it was a wholly British film, which makes sense. But yeah, great. Another great character. I enjoyed him in this,
Yes. I wish they had used him a little bit more in the second half of the movie. His dialogue with Perseus, the two of them, their chemistry was really good together from the jump. And I just, the more I watched it back yesterday, I thought in the second half, I know they have a lot of action. They're trying to bring everything to the, the climactic end there, but I would love to have seen some more interplay between them along the journey. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I
would like to see him more in the back. Yeah, the back half. And then we mentioned her before, Dame Maggie Smith as Thetis. She was Oscar nominated for Othello in 1965, Travels with My Aunt in 1972, A Room with a View in 1985, and Gosford Park in 2001. Of course, she was also in the Harry Potter film series. She also was in Death on the Nile in 1978, Hook in 1991, Sister Act in 1992, The Secret Garden in 1993, and so many other things. Of course, her final role, I think, was in Downton Abbey. Because she just passed away. I think it was just last year, right? I didn't put that in my notes.
I'm not sure, but it's been recent.
Yeah. She was actually married to the screenwriter, Beverly Cross, who had previously written Jason and the Argonauts in 1963 for producer Charles H. Schneer. Her friendship with Laurence Olivier convinced him to join the cast as well. So they were not rivals. They were actually good friends and were the reason that he came to do the movie. So. But yeah, I guess when your husband's the screenwriter, you kind of, get suckered into a movie. But no, she was good. And it was funny because when she first, I don't remember seeing her name in the opening credits. I probably was just looking away for something. But when she came on screen and started talking, I was like, I know that person. Like I've seen, like, much younger, but I know who that is. So when I realized it was Maggie Smith, I was like, man, that was a good, like, very early role for her, or at least for me to see her in an early role.
Yes.
And then
very good. She did a great job. The God you like to hate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She always plays that role, those kind of roles really, really well, like very stern and very, not very always serious. Like the bad guy, but very, serious and stern and, very determined. So then we've got Ursula Andress as Aphrodite. Her breakthrough role was as a Bond girl in the James Bond film Dr. No. She later starred as Vesper Lind in the 1967 Bond parody Casino Royale. Other credits included Fun in Acapulco in 1963, The Blue Max in 1966, Red Sun in 1971, The Fifth Musketeer in 1979, and Peter the Great in 1986. Despite being listed on posters and having main title billing, she only has one line in the entire film.
Didn't do
like
much.
she's kind of at the beginning, and that's it. So yeah. But fun fact, her and Harry Hamlin began a relationship during production, and their son Dimitri was born in 1980 after completion of principal photography. So they were, even though like, did they have any scenes together? Like,
Right.
how did they
No,
even
that's
see each
true.
other? So, but yeah. All right, moving right along. We're almost through the cast here. So we mentioned him as well, Sir Laurence Olivier, as he was been in movies and television through from the 50s, very early on. But in the 80s, he had roles in The Jazz Singer in 1980 with Neil Diamond, The Bounty in 84 with Mel Gibson and Anthony Hopkins, and Wild Geese 2. I didn't even know Wild Geese 1 even. I missed the first one. So, but Wild Geese 2 in 85. He continued to work in television in 1981. He appeared as Lord Marchmain in Brideshead Revisited, winning another Emmy. He was very ill during filming and often relied on his co-star Pat Roach for physical support between takes. So couldn't tell in his performance at all, but
Nope.
supposedly he was very sick during the movie. So while
Nope.
filming the movie.
I mean, he wasn't. It's true. He wasn't like physically. You think of Zeus, like the head of
Yeah.
the gods,
Yeah.
to be like this big physical presence. Like, I mean, not quite an Arnold Schwarzenegger, but somebody that's more muscular and powerful than everyone else. But he didn't have that at all. He was just an old man in his normal state. But the power he portrayed in confidence and
Mm-hmm.
from a place of strength inside was very, very good. Very good.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I was like, even though he didn't have the physical presence, he definitely brought that presence of he was Zeus, that they all were, basic, they were all under his dominion, I guess was a good word to say there.
Yeah,
One of my favorite characters, Calibus. I know he's kind of like the bad guy, but man, what a memorable character. Like, haunted my dreams as a kid, I'm sure.
for sure.
Played by Neil McCarthy. His film credits included memorable roles as a Welsh soldier in Zulu in 1964. He was also in Where Eagles Dare in 68, The Ruffians in 73, and Time Bandits in 1981, another 80s movie that I saw a million times on HBO. Initially, is it Calabas? I say all these
Calaboss.
names wrong. Calabas, I was right, yeah. Initially, Calabas had no dialogue and was purely a stop-motion character. But after a rewrite of the script, dialogue was added and the role was given to Neil McCarthy. Another, which you may know this as well, Calibus, Lord of the Marsh and son of Thetis, does not appear in Greek mythology. He is based on Caliban, an antagonist William Shakespeare created in he was an antagonist William Shakespeare created in 1611 for The Tempest. In Greek mythology, the son of Thetis was Achilles, Greece's best warrior in the fight against Troy. So I'm sure you knew that, being the Greek scholar you are.
I wouldn't go quite that far, but that I have heard before. Yeah, I did know that. The other interesting thing about that actor is because he's never shown in his regular form, he's only shown as the deformed Calabos. I would have known him if
Right.
he'd been in something the next day I'd seen him in. I would have. I don't even know right now what he looks like for real. I just know
No.
what that deformed, character,
Mm-hmm.
stop motion character looks like. So I kind of wish they would have given him at least a moment on screen as just the before picture,
Mm-hmm.
when all we
Yeah.
saw is the after. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to say how much he's changed or anything. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like once again, being so long since I had seen it before watching it, there was a part of me that thought, oh, when he kills him at the end, I thought that he would go back to his like normal, his normal form, and we'd see what he would look like, but he didn't. And it was weird because like, the actor was only there for like, kind of headshots. Anytime he was like full body, it was all stop motion.
yeah,
And I was like, man, couldn't they just given him a full suit? Like, they didn't need to be stop motion, but it might have been that thing because it was originally going to be a stop motion character. They had done those things already. It was like, we're not going to scrap those effects to put him in a suit. So, but yeah, that was the interesting part of the going back and forth, but he was really good. I thought, as once again, as a standout character for me in a film that has many characters and many monsters, I thought he definitely stood out to me.
yes, very evil.
All right, few more here. We've got mentioned earlier Pat Roach, who Laurence Olivier leaned on, played Hephaestus. Is that right? Hephaestus.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Who was that in the film?
He was just one of the other gods that was there, I think. He was a big guy, though. Pat wrestled competitively under the name of Bomber Roach, and at one time held both the British and European heavyweight wrestling championships. While still in the wrestling game, Roach broke into acting with a bit part in Stanley Kubrick's film Barry Lyndon in 1975. He quickly became popular as an enforcer or warrior figure and appeared on screen with some of Hollywood's biggest names. Many people remember him as the muscle-bound, bald German guard who hands out a beating to Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark before being cut down by a spinning plane propeller.
Yep.
In other film roles, he nearly eliminates 007 Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again in 1983. In dual roles as a resurrected demon and a fierce warrior, he fought Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Conan sequel, Conan the Destroyer, in 1984. And because beating up Indiana Jones needed to happen twice, he came back again as a ferocious Indian guard, pummeling poor Harrison Ford once again in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom before falling into a rock crusher.
So a enforcer of many lives.
Yes. And then it says here he was back in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So Indy actually, I think I've talked about this in the Indiana Jones episode, that he had battled the same big guy in all three movies as different characters. So yeah, he was always kind of like a big menacing person, which I guess is why Laurence Olivier would lean on him, because he was such a big guy.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. Even though we don't remember who he is in the movie, he did a lot. And last on the list, as Poseidon, Jack Gwilym, his military background, commanding presence, and deep booming voice typecast him as soldiers and authority figures. Some of his most notable roles were in Sink the Bismarck in 1960, Sword of Sherwood Forest in 60 as well. He was in Lawrence of Arabia in 62, Jason and the Argonauts in 63, Thunderball in 65, A Man for All Seasons in 66. And he also, which is what I remember from, he played Van Helsing in The Monster Squad in 1987. So much older in that role.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love the scenes of him underwater. I'm like, surely he wasn't underwater. They were just like blowing, the fan on to blow his hair, and then they put the filter over top.
He always had his mouth wide open. I could never understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
I never been
he can
underwater
definitely
with
breathe
my
underwater.
mouth wide open much.
No. So anybody else from the cast that you wanted to mention, or did I cover them all? Or anybody that stood out to you, or one of your favorites?
The only other one that we didn't mention is I really liked the head of the guard from Joppa. He had several lines. I thought he portrayed his part very well. Another one who I'm sure that British type, Shakespearean type, people that they brought into the production just to give it a little more, kind of Greek authenticity and that kind of feel to it. But I thought he did a good job. I would love to see his role amped up a little bit more too in the second half. I know he had to die, obviously in the Scorpion battle, but he was a good character along the way.
Yeah, I did read that, like, originally those roles were going to be a little bit more fleshed out. But they had more. There was more of their story, but got cut because I was actually surprised. This movie was right at 2 hours. Like, I was expecting an 80s movie. Most 80s movies now, going back hour 40, maybe hour 45, but that's about it. But this one was actually like right at 2 hours. So they did have to, I'm sure they had to cut some things, and you kind of feel the length at the end, but those third act is pretty well packed with the action and like the meat of the conclusion of the story. So I could see where they had to cut some of those out. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more of both of those guys and more of their role of how they interacted with Perseus and that kind of stuff.
For sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about iconic scenes, favorite scenes. So iconic scene. If someone says Clash of the Titans from 1981, what scene immediately pops in your head?
It's got to be right after the killing of Medusa, when Perseus comes out of the temple and he holds the head up high, and there's big musical climax, and there's all kinds of thunder. I mean, they roll it out at that moment. So For me, that's it. I also really like I like the scorpion scene a lot too. I've always thought
Mhm.
scorpions are pretty menacing little guys, on their own,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
kind of the way they're built. And to see them like man-sized when I was
Mhm.
a kid watching all this for the first time, I was like, pretty terrifying stuff, that a full-size scorpion could be coming after you, much less three of them, those humongous
Mhm.
claws and also, but those are two big scenes for me. I also like the ferryman being the skeleton, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's another one that gave me some nightmares back in the day. But like, oh, okay. But that, it
Yeah.
sets up that Isle of the Dead idea very well before
Mhm.
they even
Mhm.
set foot on it, that you have a skeleton ferryman along the way. But those are three of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, iconic. I'm the same. The kind of they're kind of blended together in my mind where he comes out and he holds the head right after he decapitates Medusa, but then also at the very end where he's holding it up to freeze the Kraken. Kind of the kind of the same in my mind. But like, yeah, him holding the head of Medusa is the iconic scene for me for sure. Favorite scenes. I love the whole sequence within Medusa's lair was
Yes.
always my favorite part. Like I remember like when it started, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember being the kid, like just waiting for this scene, watching the beginning. Like the beginning, I enjoyed the beginning, but like that was the scene I couldn't wait to get to. That was always my favorite scene of the movie. So that's definitely my favorite. Will, I did put this in the notes. The Medusa sequence is widely considered the film's masterpiece. It required 3 months to shoot with every snake on her head moved individually for every frame. So for them to do that special effect back then took 3 months to do, which is crazy. So,
That is crazy. Another thing about that part is I knew when the head of the guard did not go with him across to the aisle, that those three other
yeah,
dudes are gonna die. It's like in Star Wars, sorry, Star Trek, you can always tell when the
yeah,
guys in the red shirts would
red shirt, yeah,
beam down with the main cast, and you're like, "That guy's never coming back." So,
yeah, yeah.
did you feel that?
I've never seen, I've never seen him on the ship before. Oh yeah, he's gonna die before this episode's over. Yeah, yeah,
That Randolph,
but
we'll
yeah,
see you later.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when those guys got in that boat with them. I'm like, "Well, they're not."
mhm. Yeah. So that's by far like my favorite scene. I do like the fight between Perseus and Calibus, like
Yeah.
they're when he cuts his arm off, cuts his hand off, like that was really good. I did like the scorpion scene. Like, I mean, most of the action scenes are what I kind of remember. But yeah, yeah, that I think those are the ones that really stand out to me for
Another
sure.
interesting in one is the capture of Pegasus at the lake.
Hmm.
That's another one that was
Yeah.
interesting because they talk about Pegasus and those winged horses in the beginning, but when you finally
Mm-hmm.
see it, even though the CGI,
Oh
like we
yeah.
said, it's just not
Yeah.
great compared to today's standards. But imagine that
Hmm.
in today's standards, right? I mean, that the
Oh yeah.
idea of it was just fantastic. And then him capturing him with his invisible helmet and kind of taming him
Hmm.
down a
Hmm.
little bit. You know, it, uh, there's some modern equivalents of it, like the Avatar guys trying to tame their flying beasts, same kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
a lot of that same kind of feeling to it, but way earlier. Of course, I like
Hmm.
that too. And the flying vulture was pretty amazing too. That thing was
Yeah. Yeah.
humongous.
Yeah. I was gonna say that was another scene that I remembered, like, when I guess the spirit of, um, Andromeda,
Yes,
comes, like, gets awakened and gets put in the cage and flies off to see Calibus. Like, when that scene started, I was like, "Ooh, I remember I remember being mesmerized by that as a kid too, like, that whole sequence." And then, once again, looks pretty tame today, but the scene after she's met with Calibus and kinda said, "Why you stop bringing me here, da, da, da," and then she leaves, and then he sees the footprints of, Perseus following him, like, "Come on, dude, don't make," I mean, and they make noise too, like, "Come on, man, you
right.
gotta know that they can hear that, right?" So, but I remember that scene too of, like, seeing the footprints in the sand without his physical body, so, but yeah.
Another cool stop motion technique. They use that a couple times
Mhm.
in the film. It was good.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep. All right, well, let's jump into some trivia. Maybe think of some other scenes as we're going through it. You probably know this once again because you've studied this a little bit more than I had. I thought this was interesting to know. The Titans actually preceded the Olympians in power. Cronus and Atlas were the most famous Titans. Ironically, none of the Titans from Greek mythology appear in this movie. In the movie, the Titans are the Norse Kraken, who never appeared in Greek mythology at all, and Medusa, who was never considered a Titan by the Greeks. But, well,
Although although she probably should have been. I mean, she
yeah.
wasn't like a naturally born Titan. She, was cursed into being Medusa, but certainly
Mm-hmm.
that power, even when dead, I mean, it was widely known that her stare, even if she was no longer in the alive body, would still cause you to be turned to stone. That's another thing that makes that scene, you were talking about. So, obviously it's pivotal in the film, but it makes it so such a big, massive success is that the devastation, you see it happen to one of the guys. And when they got
Mm-hmm.
to the island, one of the first things that Perseus finds is that stone, figure of a man. You could tell it was obviously a man.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of
Yeah.
danger there, and that danger just kept getting heightened and heightened and heightened. So Titan or not,
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
scores that goal, or that award in my book,
Hmm. Yeah,
official
for
or
sure.
not.
Right, right. Let's see. So Greek hellhounds traditionally had three heads. Dioskylos in this movie, I'm saying all these words, in this movie had only two because it would have taken Ray Harryhausen too much time to animate a third head. So a little off there.
Okay,
And then we mentioned already the quote from Zeus when he orders the destruction of Argos at the beginning of the film is quote unquote, let loose the Kraken. Many people, however, remember it as release the Kraken. But at the climax, when he's secretly giving Perseus a heroic second wind, he does say release the Kraken. So that's why we know it. We remember from the end, not the beginning. So
correct.
but yeah, so I did like this looking at, so the original storyline focused just on Perseus and Andromeda's romance, linking together a number of myths. Once Ray Harryhausen was brought on board, the story was changed to feature more monsters. Some early script ideas were Andromeda being naked when she was sacrificed, as it is in the myth, and the Kraken tearing Pegasus to pieces during the finale, but those were cut to preserve a PG rating, of course. It was given an A rating, which then meant advisable to no one under 14, but allowed children older than 5. Some cuts also had to be made in Perseus's final fight with Calibus. I guess that rating was probably for the British rating, not the American rating. The original script called for Perseus to cut off Medusa's head simply by throwing his shield at her in an attempt to appease UK standards and practices censors, as the producers felt that the hero decapitating someone would not be appropriate for children in the audience. Harry Hamlin apparently was resistant to the idea from the beginning, as it wasn't in keeping with the actual Greek mythology. When the day came to film the scene and it still hadn't been changed, he threatened to quit the movie and fly home. He remained in his trailer, much to the annoyance of producers Charles Schneer and Ray Harryhausen and director Desmond Davis. Hamlin was gradually able to get some of the other crew members on his side, which resulted in the scene being rewritten accordingly. So I kind of agree with him. You needed that. I mean, we didn't really see it like you knew it happened. So I like that it was kind of more off camera. So it wasn't as, I guess, traumatic for a child. But yeah, I think it needed to be that way for the movie for sure.
Yeah, good for him for taking a stand.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then, so there was a sequel titled Force of the Trojans, again written by Beverly Cross, that was pitched to MGM in 1984, but was never made due to the complicated nature of the effects. So the sequel to be based on the Aeneid, Aeneid,
Mm,
maybe. Okay.
I don't know.
So I'll say that the sequel is based on the opening of the siege of Troy and the sneak attack of the city with the giant wooden horse, and following the Trojan prince and his quest for revenge following the death of his wife during the battle, eventually going on to found the city of Rome and become the ancestor of all the Romans. The film was to have sequences featuring the giant talking sphinx, Phrygia, the fatal flight of Daedalus and Icarus, all these
Icarus.
names. Icarus, there we go. A Pandora's Box sequence, Furies, Jackalmen, a colony of Cyclops, the evil goddess Hecate with 3 faces and 6 hands, each holding a different weapon, and even the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse in the finale. Despite the film not being made, a lot of pre-production work went into it, including plenty of concept art. So, yeah, so they didn't make it, which seemed like that was a lot. That would have been a lot to do. I'm sure the effects would have been a little bit better in 84 than they were in 81, for sure.
That movie sounds like it would have been busy.
Yes. Yeah. Very busy. And I do remember this. I don't know if you remember this. In an attempt to cash in on the success of Kenner Star Wars toys, Mattel produced Clash of the Titan toys in 81. The toys released were Perseus, Thallo, Calibus, Charon, Pegasus, and the Kraken. And I want to say I had at least one of those toys, or I had seen it somewhere because I remembered that very,
Yeah, I had
very
a
vividly.
Pegasus toy, I'm sure, way back in the day.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess they didn't do as well, but like I said, I'm sure I had one of them. I might have had a Perseus. I probably had a Perseus one, but anyway, can't remember now.
Worth a lot of money now if you could find it.
Yeah, I know. If I could find it, gone, long gone.
Yeah, right.
Long, long gone.
Yep.
All right, box office. Clash of the Titans was released on June 12th, 1981, and grossed $6 million in 1,127 theaters in its opening weekend. It came in second behind Raiders of the Lost Ark at the U.S. box office, which was released on the same date. Bad planning for them, not that they knew that it was going to be a hit. By the time it finished its theatrical run, it had grossed $41 million in North America, and the film had a worldwide gross of over $70 million and was one of Nine's biggest hits. So it did make money, which I'm glad. They said it didn't, there were some reports that said it didn't do well, but I think it did well. Probably it wasn't as big as probably some of the other movies that came out that year, but I think it still did well. Because once again, going back and watching it, I can't imagine the budget being like super huge, even with all the effects they did. But just looking back at it now, it's like, ooh, shoestring budget by today's standards. All right, now it's time to take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. It's the Rewatchability Nostalgia Meter. It's our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter is a number 1, which means I saw it once and that was enough. In the middle is a 5, which is a good rewatch every couple of years. And at the top of the meter, the highly coveted 10, which means it's highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So, Chris, where does Clash of the Titans rank for you on the Rewatchability and Nostalgia Meter?
Man, this is a really tough one. I think that I almost want to give it 2 ratings because I think based on the effects or the lack of how they all hold up, I'd like to give it a 3. But based on the acting and the actual story, I'd love to give it more like a 7. So somewhere in the middle of that, maybe 5 probably is the reality for me. Even the very beginning, just starting to watch the opening credits, Poseidon is supposed to be a bird, and the bird is like floating in and out of view. Like the bird's almost disappearing in the view of and he's supposed to be the only thing in the camera shot other than, the background of the rest of the world there. And so there are several things like that. You can obviously tell that when Poseidon's letting the Kraken out, that he and this little thing he's turning are real, and everything else is fake. It's just so very different. And I never noticed any of that when I was a kid. I didn't notice any of that. I just it was the whole, for me, it was the spectacle of it and all of that. But my senses now that I've seen, things like Avatar, for real, your level of what you expect is just so different now. But I really do, like I said, the story though, it holds up. It's a story. It's a great hero story. Somebody who's taken from literally nothing, although he is the son of Zeus. He doesn't have any superpowers.
He didn't know that.
You can tell that.
But he didn't know that.
He's just a normal earthly guy. He gets a little bit of help from Zeus along the way with the helmet, the sword, the shield, those sorts of things. But, it's really his journey. And like they make a big deal of, it's his destiny, to try to save Andromeda in the end. And it's a great story. So for that, I'd push it up a little higher on the meter. So I'll go with 5.
Okay. I mean, that sounds That sounds good. I mean, that's, once again, it's a good rewatch every couple of years. And I think that's kind of it. It's right around there for me. I'm going to bump it up a little bit and maybe give it a 6, maybe 6.5, just because of the nostalgia, because it's one of the first movies I saw in the theater as a kid. I watched it so many times as a kid. So like, it's tied to my childhood. This is one of those movies, like when we talk about movies that are tied to your childhood. This is, in that, especially early childhood, one of the first movies I remember seeing. So, it holds a lot of nostalgia for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 7, just because the nostalgia kind of pushes it up. But it's not one that I'm gonna want to watch every year. It's not gonna be on a high rotating schedule for me. But every couple of years, it's probably good just to throw in and just like I said, it's dated for sure, but it's an enjoyable watch for all the reasons that you said. The story is good, the acting is good. Seeing, stars and old people in their prime, some of the old Hollywood mixed with like the young Hollywood of Harryhausen in one of his first roles. So definitely, as a movie lover, it's one that you got to watch a couple of times in your lifetime for sure. All right, well, let us know where you think Clash of the Titans should rank on the Rewatchability Nostalgia Meter. You can send us an email, let us know on social media, or leave us a comment right here on YouTube if that's where you're watching us.
If there are people out there that haven't seen it in a long time like you and I had, and I think it's definitely worth the watch again for sure. Bring it back and let folks know in the comments. They can say what they think along our lines, or maybe a little higher, a little lower. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, did you stream it somewhere? Did you rent it? How did you watch it?
Yeah, I had to rent it. That's the only way I could find it available. But I rented off Prime, yes, on Amazon Primes.
Okay, yeah, I actually got the Blu-ray probably like a year or two ago, pretty cheap. And it was funny because I put the Blu-ray in, and obviously the Blu-ray came out right when the 2011 remake came out, because it starts with like, here's a sneak peek of the new Clash of the Titans. So it was like a 10-minute like commercial, behind the scenes commercial for the new Clash of the Titans. So, but yeah, which I was not a huge, the first one was okay. Like the Clash of the Titans remake that they did was decent. The second one they made, the Wrath of the Titans, the sequel, was terrible. I think I only watched that one once.
Gotcha.
Haven't gone back and watched those in a while. So, but yeah. All right, Chris, well, thanks for joining on this episode. Always good to have you on the show. And this was another fun one. Like Chris said, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's great to go back and rewatch, especially after listening to us talk about it for 45 to 50 minutes. So good to go back and see what we're talking about. All right, that's a wrap on another trip to the greatest decade of cinema. If we sparked a memory or helped you rediscover a classic, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps the show reach more fans just like you. To make sure you're always in the loop for our next deep dive, hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you want to keep the show running, consider being a partner over at buymeacoffee.com. For more 80s goodness, our digital headquarters is always open at 80sflickflashback.com. And while you're there, check out our TeePublic store for original designs and movie-inspired merch that will have you looking like an 80s icon. Just launched some new designs. One, I thought of you, Chris. If you don't know, Chris has one of his favorite sayings from Airplane, which I don't think you were on that episode with us, but I just want you to know we're all counting on you.
Yes.
What's the line? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Where they come in the cockpit and
yes,
even after the plane's already crashed.
Yeah. He's like, I just want to tell you, good luck, and we're all counting on you. So I actually put that on a t-shirt. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that's on a t-shirt now. So if you want to get that and amaze your friends, go check out our TeePublic store and order one. All right, Chris, great to have you again. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks everybody for listening. For the 80s Flick Flashback, I'm Tim Williams. Release the Kraken.